Sports fans like to stay tuned into all the biggest events around the world, but even big sporting aficionados may never have heard of all these games. It's important to know these top 10 sporting events to stay up to date on the international sporting world. But what are they? Watch till the end to find out. First up, Cricket World Cup, known as the ICC Cricket World Cup. This is the top-level competition for cricket and occurs once every 4 years. Governed by an international society, it's most common across the Commonwealth nations due to cricket's deep roots in the UK and British society. For those not in the know, cricket is a game played with a bat and ball between two teams of 11 players. There are complex rules surrounding getting players in and out. But like baseball, one side is batting and trying to score as they run, while others are trying to prevent the successful strikes of the opposing batters and runners. There are normally 2 umpires to adjudicate issues on the field and make all relevant calls. But the international game is so competitive and well regulated as to call for 3 umpires instead, in addition to a referee. Next up, the Tour de France. Cycling fans all over, and those interested in doping scandals that leave the players' balls far too deflated to make muster in the NFL, are well familiar with the Tour de France. It's an annual event for male cyclists held in France. It roughly means go around France, which is precisely what you're expected to do. It's in the top 3 bicycle races in the world, but it gets most of the glory and often sports the best riders in the game at the time. In 2012, a 7-time winner, Lance Armstrong, from the United States, was stripped of all Tour de France titles after an investigation revealed he was central to a doping conspiracy during the years where he won his titles. There is a long and storied history of doping in the Tour de France, going all the way back to 1903. Of course, methods were simpler back then. Alcohol and ether are not normally considered performance enhancers, but they did dull the pain these long-distance cyclists had to deal with. The height of this scandal was probably Tom Simpson, though, who back in 1967 actually died during the race. It was found he'd taken amphetamines and alcohol, which wound up killing him in combination with the heat at the long climb on Ventoux. It just goes to show, kids, winners don't do drugs. After that, we're touring the Grand National. At the forefront of the National Hunt horse races is the Grand National, held annually in Liverpool, England. These races uniquely rely upon the dumping of fences and ditches by the horses and have a history going back to 1839, leaving them a deeply ingrained part of British culture. Even those with no normal interest in horse racing or betting get enraptured by the event all across Britain, leaving the Aintree Racecourse of Aintree, Merseyside, a nationally iconic sporting locale for the United Kingdom's public. Most recently, the race was taken by Nobby Yeats, an Irish-bred racehorse. Now, among the Masters Tournament, one of 4 major tournament championships in men's pro golf. Of note, it's played on the same course every year, unlike the other tournaments, and pro golfers who win the Masters Tournament even once are guaranteed a lifelong seed to participate at all future Masters tournaments and gain honorary membership in perpetuity at the course. Modern luminaries of the golfing world, like Tiger Woods, mark the apex of their ascent across their various Masters Tournament victories. Even those not familiar with golf are aware of its victors, leaving it the most prestigious price a golfsman can hope to gain in terms of publicity and renown. Who knows, you might even get a car commercial out of winning. Now let's hit the NBA Finals, an annual event that dominates the American Football Association year-round as a consideration and goal for every player and team. The NBA Finals determines which team is the best of the best and cements the legacy of the grandest players in the game with its coveted MVP awards. A championship ring is awarded to members of the winning team, and it takes serious work to get there. Every minute is soaked in blood, sweat, and tears for the pro athletes on the court, pushing through injury and exhaustion to rack up shots for their team and hold down the enemy's score through good denial and groundwork. Teams must win several games and then secure a best-of-7 position in preliminary events to reach the NBA Finals. This event earns some of the most money of any sporting event in North America. Time for the rackets, lads. Wimbledon's up next. Swinging rackets across high-class tax brackets and prestigious preppies characterize Wimbledon as the esteemed and refined sporting championship. Make no mistake, though, Wimbledon competitors get down and dirty on those nets to secure victory. Wimbledon is the oldest of the 4 tennis tournaments of England, known together as the Grand Slams, and holds the grandest position of prestige due to its venerable roots. It began way back in 1877. This is back in the time of the Long Depression, known as the Great Depression, before that little hiccup in 1929 took the Grand Economic Slam title. So people got a glimpse of a fabulous and wealthy world where sport and leisure could override the dreary goings of the day when it launched. Its iconic victors include Roger Federer, Serena Williams, Martina Navratilova, and Pete Sampras. Pucks up, it's the Stanley Cup Finals. Popping off at the top of the world, we've got the biggest sporting event in Canada, the Stanley Cup Finals. To take home the cup, one must fight through 16 playoff games and face up to 28 total games before being deemed champion. Some say the Stanley Cup is the hardest in all of sports to take home. What do you think? Is that because of all the wins you've got to rack up, or the odds someone tosses their gloves to throw hands on the ice? You know how hockey gets. The Colorado Avalanche dethroned the 2-time defending champs from the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2022. We'll see if Lightning strikes thrice next year, or if Miami winds up buried in an avalanche yet again. For a true multimedia event, we've got the Super Bowl, a name so prestigious they make network TV hosts call it the big game to save on licensing fees for even referencing the thing. This is the National Football League's definitive championship. American football is a hugely popular sport across pro and college levels, and even high school across various regions like the South. People get deeply invested in tossing that pigskin across the gridiron. Arenas, tournaments, teams, and captains suck down and generate mega millions across the United States of America. Of course, you're going to be looking at the food and service industries exploding with revenue around the hosting of the Super Bowl. But that's local. On the national and even international scale, though, we know the Super Bowl from its advertising. As one of the biggest annual television events in history, the Super Bowl is massively popular with advertisers. People pour untold millions into their Super Bowl ads alone for 30 and 60-second snippets. Google's Loretta ad and Amazon's Before Alexa Super Bowl ads in 2020 are tied for the most expensive ads on the Super Bowl of all time, with these commercials calling down a total cost of $16.8 million United States dollars. Both are for their respective wiretaps turned family managers. Loretta is a tearjerker about an elderly man remembering his wife by way of Google Assistant. Amazon's Before Alexa relies on the star power of Ellen DeGeneres and her then-wife, Portia, to tell a historical comedic tale intended to emphasize Alexa's usefulness. Now, the Super Bowl is the game, not the media event. It's divided into 4 15-minute quarters, like any other game of the American Super Bowl. Most of the time you spend watching this event will just be people standing around, drinking Gatorade, putting their hands on their hips and looking stressed, or hurriedly devising stratagems for the next bout of yard-pushing play. If you like the game, you love seeing this ultimate test of skill and following the drama of all the players and coaches in this final struggle. Otherwise, well, it's got a neat halftime show. Kicking for the goal, we've got the FIFA World Cup. Football, or soccer for Americans, is considered the most popular sport in the entire world. It is particularly popular in Europe, Africa, Asia, and South America. The World Cup, as it's known to fans, FIFA organizes the grandest game played between two nets with all the senior men's national teams. FIFA is an every 4 years tournament. It began back in 1930 and has only skipped 2 years, 1942 and 1946, on account of the Second World War. Nations in Europe and the world over had enough going on without worrying about wives and girlfriends, programming, and drug scandals that circle football like perpetually feasting buzzards of public attention. And to herald the king, it's the Olympic Games. What can be said of the Olympics? You compete for the top spot of all top spots across the world in your category. Gold medals bring prestige to the nation and permanent fame, plus a few cereal commercials for their bearers. We all know and love the Olympics. Think we missed a big event? Which game is your favorite? Comment below as you kick the like and punt the subscribe button for more sporting content.